Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Gary and I are talking about what should we do today? What kind of show should we have? So we decided that we're going to do a spiritual show today.
You decided.
Well,
it's your show.
with a lot of input from you. No, because a lot of things are going on in the world, and people are saying why. Why is probably the most important question you could really ask. You know, why? Do we really know why? People seem to find themselves in difficult situations all the time, and they say to themselves, why me? I'm a good person. Just like you were saying. I'm a good person. Why is this stuff all hanking and really affecting my life in a negative way?
Or
There's a reason.
Yeah,
There's
why are things thrown your way that you really don't have any control over?
And sometimes what gets thrown at you is good for you. It doesn't always have to be on the negative side. You know, being in the right place at the right time. The problem is that most people never stop and say to themselves, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
When something good happens, they just accept it as a given and don't acknowledge the appreciation for the fact that they got what they got.
Well, I want to thank you.
Why?
Because I've considered you a friend, and it's been a pleasure to know you and to work on your radio show. So I want to thank you for being a part of KCAA.
Well, I appreciate that. I was saying to my wife last night, I said, this is turning out to be a hobby. It really is. She said, look, if you were going to be playing golf every week, you'd spend 5 hours and all that money. This way you're having a good time. I said, you know what? It never was about the money. It was always about trying to help people understand a system that they don't understand. And in some ways, the people at the top don't want you to understand.
Yeah.
It's easier to lead the blind, It's like that great book, Animal Farm. Some are more equal than others.
Yes, indeed.
But the reality is that there's really two laws in the world. There's a physical law, gravity, you jump up, you're going to come down. Physical law, all well defined. And we seem to follow that because we recognize it's well proven and there's enough evidence to support it. But the other law is the spiritual law, the law of principles.
That's a law I abide by.
But that's the way the real world works because spiritual precedes physical. And if spiritual precedes physical, it means we have some degree of control over it. That makes a big, big difference. When I was doing lectures, I would start off by asking people if they believed that everything happened by random or everything was predetermined. You'd be surprised the answers. Most people got it right. So what do you think? Everything is random. Stuff happens versus it's already been decided and this is what it's going to be. Phone it in.
I believe that everything is sort of predetermined in your life. I believe everything happens for a reason. I think this is a test down here to get to a higher dimension. This is a test down here. I believe this is a total test down here, being a human being and how you treat others and how you are perceived and how you are received, to get to another plateau, whether you want to call it heaven or whatever it is in your faith, your religious faith. So I really believe this is a test, and that's why I take on certain aspects of my life that maybe a lot of people wouldn't or question it.
Well, I thought of a very interesting analogy. First, to answer the question whether it's random or it's predetermined, many religions, and we're not talking about religion here, we're talking about spirituality, it's a big difference.
Right.
Religion tells you what to do and do it, no questions asked.
Right, and it's very rigid.
And well, here it is. Here's the textbook to follow what you do. You start this at this hour. You do this at that's rules.
Right.
Spirituality provides us with tools, literally tools. So if you know how to do something, and you have the ability to exercise a free choice to do it, you can accomplish it. So the answer to the question, according to most spiritual people, is that everything is predetermined.
I got it right.
It's like the movie. It's like a movie. You go out and you buy the movie.
Yes.
You stick it in the DVD player or whatever it is they're calling it these days. Names change every week.
Yeah.
And that's the movie.
Yeah.
There's not much you can do about it. But in real life, our lives are like a movie with one big difference. We can change the ending.
Yes.
By doing various things which ultimately affect the ending.
Absolutely.
And so that was one of the purposes of man's creation, was to use free choice for the benefit of working their way back to whatever you want to call it, nirvana or heaven or whatever it is. You got an opportunity to work your way back. In your movie, you can change the scenes.
Yeah.
Instead of meeting A, you meet B.
Right.
And if you had met A, this is where your life would have gone.
Well, don't you always look back on your life and go, if I would have done this or I wouldn't have done this, then it would have been a different outcome.
Oh, all the time. I had some in my life, as everybody else has the same thing. Moments where you make a choice and your life is dictated by what it is. I met my wife at a birthday party across a room, like that song goes, across a crowded room. And
Love at first sight.
I only went there because it was after a hockey game, and instead of going home, I'll go to this party.
So you could have just gone home and never met her.
That's right.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
That's 40 some odd years ago, and the reality is the same thing. When I quit the studio, I was very egotistical. I was very young, and I didn't like the idea that a new management was coming in, and I thought they would basically pick my brain for 6 months, and that would be the end of it. So I went and joined a law firm.
Right.
I've looked back at that moment and have said to myself, what if? I didn't. They wanted me to stay. They asked me to stay. I had an assistant. They had everything was going to be all worked out. It was fine, but I didn't believe them. And so I quit. I quit something that could have taken me to God knows where.
Right.
But, that happens.
Yeah.
And
I know.
I could go, you and every other person, if you sat down and spent 15 minutes a day and just retroflect back to where you've been and where you would have been if you had done A, B, or C, recognize you are where you are right now.
Yeah.
And from a spiritual standpoint, there's really no such thing as time, space, and motion. Everything is right this very second. In the past, it's good to look back, maybe enjoy and reminisce a little bit, and the future hasn't gotten here yet, but it's right now.
Yeah, well, I like to learn from my past, and try to not make those mistakes that I've made in the past, and I think I've done a good job of it for the most part, because I've made a lot of mistakes in my life.
Everybody's made mistakes. If you don't make mistakes, you don't grow. In fact, I thought of this analogy, and I read it. I don't want to take credit for it. It comes from somebody else. I don't know who it is. But if you had a magical password, that you use this password, and you're a big basketball player, using that password, you win every single game you played, every single one. You just use the password, pick up the ball, and you're going to win every single time. By the time you got to the 50th game, how do you think you'd feel?
Probably bored.
Bored is for sure. What progress would you have made? None. Exactly right. So when you look at your life and experiences that come along, like the people who lost their homes, people 2 doors down, 3 doors down, lost everything.
Yeah.
Other people, nothing. Why is that?
That is weird, isn't it? Random.
I know, everybody says that. Why them?
Yeah.
Why wasn't it somebody else? The answer really is that everything that happens to you is for a reason, as you know, but it gives you choice. And if you have to confront a challenge, just the word challenge says to you, you got to do something about it. You got to make a decision to do one thing or another. That's what free choice is really all about. You're going to do something, whether it's going to be proactive or reactive. Those are the two possibilities. If it's reactive, anger, fear, frustration, all of those kinds of things, that's reactive conduct.
Yeah, it's not good.
What you draw is negative energy.
Yeah, it's not good.
It draws negative energy.
Yes,
there's two kinds of energies out there.
You're right.
There's positive energy and there's negative energy.
You're right.
And what do you want to do? You want to connect to the positive. Positive is right place, right time. Negative, chaos.
Not in control.
Like I was going to say, like your morning show, control chaos, but this isn't control.
No, it's uncontrolled.
But this is what gets you going, and we'll talk a little bit more about that right after the break.
All right, it's Judge Herb Dodell. Get his book, From the Trench to the Bench, available on Amazon.com. If you want to ask the judge a question, you can email him. Yes, you can actually contact him. Email him at askjudgeherb@gmail.com.
1050 AM, KCAA.
Herb Dodell is a lawyer and a judge for the people. Having served as a Superior Court judge, presiding over more than 9,000 cases, he has witnessed firsthand how complicated and corrupt the legal system can be. His goal is to show how things really work in the legal system so that people can navigate the legal system in the best way for them. Many people often feel marginalized by the legal system and are uninformed about how to proceed when unfortunate circumstances arise in their life. Judge Herb will pull back the curtain, lift the veil, so people can truly understand their rights, have access to top legal personnel that they can trust, and have knowledge about how things work so they can make better choices. Judge Herb isn't just knowledgeable. His integrity and spiritual values are truly what make him different. He cares about democratizing access and information for all and desires to turn on the light so the people, you, can benefit. For more information, email the judge at askjudgeherb@gmail.com. That's askjudgeherb@gmail.com.
I just realized that some of the things we're talking about today, we've talked about before. We've done, what, almost 70 radio shows now, I guess?
Wow.
So there's been some repeats. But it's not bad to repeat. Some of the stuff is so meaningful that it's worth hearing a second time. And unless you listen to the show every week, you might have missed some of the shows that dealt with this very, very important subject because it's at the essence of everything.
Yeah, well, especially what's going on in our society and all the craziness. I mean, you hear these crazy stories all the time about our society and what's going on with our government and our officials and just people in general, and just the weird hatred that people have for each other, and we were talking off the air or before the show about the me generation. It's all about me nowadays, and it's so sad that we become this.
Well, the biggest problem, maybe not the biggest problem, one of the biggest problems is self-gratification. People want things now.
Yeah.
It used to be in the day that you had to really spend a lot of work and effort, and at the end of the day, maybe you got what you were looking for. Today, you got a smartphone, you got a little machine that sits on a desk someplace, and you say, Alexi, turn off the lights, or whatever. We've taken away a lot of individual choices and have kind of relegated them to mechanics.
I don't even think people can go out and enjoy themselves just randomly anymore. I was playing golf last week, and with 3 other guys, and they're elderly guys, older than me, and they were all on their phones while we were waiting to tee off and stuff like that. And I'm like, they couldn't even put their phones away on the golf course. It's just like, wow, man. I mean, you're so consumed with this whole weird energy. I don't know what it is. It's bizarre.
No, the energy is now. They want everything now.
But can't you
And
just relax?
not willing to wait.
But just can't you relax? Like, can't you go for a walk or a hike without opening your phone? You probably can't even take a hike anymore without somebody just opening up their friggin' phone. I mean, it's weird. To me, it's weird, Judge, because I just don't subscribe to that type of thinking.
We once talked about it before. We went to a restaurant one night, and there were 4 people sitting at a table. 4 people talking on their cell phones, not talking, texting, sitting there, not talking to each other,
right?
Just texting, because that's where we've gone. In fact, when I said to my daughter the other day, I said I want to give him a call. She says, "You don't call people anymore. You text them." I said, "No, I don't. I want to talk to somebody.
I want to talk to people too.
I want to sit across from somebody. I wouldn't take a client unless I sat down and talked to them." Not only just to hear the words, but to see the responses, the energy that you get off of somebody. You can really, really tell if you're open-minded and you having an eye-to-eye conversation. You can tell who those people are.
Absolutely,
you absolutely can. And this texting, to me, old-fashioned, I guess. To me, doesn't do it.
It's not old-fashioned, Judge. It's a communication, okay? It's a communication skill to be able to talk to somebody one-on-one and actually communicate and get their vibe and their feeling. When you text somebody, there's no vibe, there's no feeling, there's nothing. It's just, they're words.
Informational.
Yeah. I mean, there's no, love there. There's no vibe. There's no energy. It's it's just words. It's meaningless. When you talk to somebody on the phone or you talk to somebody one-on-one, you get vibes, you get energy.
What are you going to do about it?
Do about what?
Well, what are you going to do about that? How are you going to change everything?
I can't. There's nothing to change.
But you can.
But
you can.
Well, what I do is this. I'll tell you what I do. I have my flip phone still. Okay. I do not. I have a smartphone, by the way. I have a smartphone because I do my Facebook Live show, and I go when I want to go out and have a good time. I don't like to drink and drive, so I'll take Uber or some of that. So I have that, and it's great for pictures, the smartphone. But I don't subscribe to the society of the smartphone and having instant whatever gratification or social media and all that. I don't subscribe to that. So that's what I do.
But you can see the changes every day. I said the other day to somebody, fax me a copy. They said, fax? Nobody has a fax machine anymore. I got one of those. Fax is outmoded.
Yeah.
No, you don't bother with that. Everything's over the internet.
Right. Or you scan it now.
Yeah, but the whole thing is changing. I remember when I was a law clerk, when I first started out, I worked for a guy. He had a mimeograph machine.
Oh, gee.
You don't know what that? Do you remember what that was?
Yeah.
It had a crank.
Right.
You put in a piece of carbon paper and regular paper below it, and you crank the handle.
Yeah, crank it out.
And the papers came out, and that's how you made copies.
Yeah.
Today, they laugh at you. Got one of those things.
Yeah.
Although I was talking to somebody the other day about vinyl records. I have a collection of vinyl records. I represented Stan Kenton, who was a big band guy, and Stanley gave me a box of albums unopened.
Wow.
And I got them in storage, but
wow.
unopened. I have no idea what they're worth.
They're price. I'm sure there's a few that are pretty well up there in price.
So but nobody has vinyl record players anymore.
The weird thing is, Judge, is that actually that is sort of coming back. That people are going back to vinyl.
Somebody told me that. Why is that?
I don't know. I think it's just the energy of it. They think it's more pure, that it's laid on vinyl than on a CD or something like that, or it's on MP3. It's more like a studio, like the old studio version of it.
That's how they did it,
Yeah, that's what I know. I'm just saying. I have my tons of rock and roll records that I collected over the years, but yeah, you can actually get a phonograph nowadays. You can go like a Target or a Walmart, and they actually sell them there. Which is
kidding.
Yes, they do. They actually do. In fact, I got my aunt, my uncle, God rest his soul. I got my uncle because he had all these Elvis Presley albums and Beatles. He was a big Elvis and Beatles fan. So one day I got him a phonograph before he passed on, and he used to play his records on that. So yeah, you can still get them. You can still get them.
Sounds kind of interesting. I'd like to do that.
You should. Put it in your office.
I actually watched him do a session, more than one session. When they were laying out on the tracks with the board and the mixers and all the things, they would spend. When I was in London, they would spend probably 6, 7, 8 hours cutting maybe 2 minutes.
Yeah, that's how they did it.
Somebody didn't like it, they went back and did it all over again, over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
There was a certain perfection that went along with that.
Oh, they took months to make albums. They took months and months to make albums. Nowadays, you can do it in like 2 days at your home.
In fact, now that you mention it, the guy that wrote the music for the show, his name is Seven Aurelius. He's a Grammy Award-winning writer, producer, and he stayed with us for about 6 months when he was here temporarily. Every week he was going to go back, and so he stayed with us, and he brought all his equipment, and he actually did an album in our guest house.
Wow, that's cool.
One of them he thinks is going to win a Grammy. It's on Kanye West's album.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's called Brothers. So
have to check that out.
he was sitting in there every day working on his album by himself, and playing the keyboards and doing whatever it was. I might even have him as a guest. He was discovered by Michael Jackson and produced Mariah Carey, and he produced J-Lo, and he produced some other great songwriter. I'm trying to remember the name of who it was. He had a lot of great groups, and I kind of learned a little bit about how the mechanics of the business works through his experiences. He hit it real young, and he had the big mansion in Miami and all of that stuff, and went through all of it just like many other artists did.
They all go through it for some reason.
No, but he has great talent, number
Yeah.
one, and he has a wonderful spirituality to him. We sit and talk for hours, and
I think you have to have some sort of spiritualness to.
well, he's guided
write.
he's guided by his spiritual path. So maybe I'll have him as a guest one of these days.
That'd
He
be
can tell
great.
us what it was like to be in the old rock and roll hip hop days.
That'd be
You know,
cool.
Might be fun to have somebody like that.
Absolutely.
I'm looking to line up some good guests because this show is unique. I mean, where do you find somebody that introduces the sheriff, a porn star, Roger Stone, and a Meiji movie star? And a bankruptcy lawyer, and a
Right.
tax guy, and
guy,
a collection guy, and a personal injury guy or gal.
It's a great
And,
show.
You know,
Judge.
we really are diverse here.
You are.
I got to say that.
You are.
And so much of it is really extemporaneous. You know, I come in and I got maybe 2-3 notes,
Yeah, you better.
but I
you,
never
you,
can quite stick to the notes.
You never have. You always walk in here like 3 or 4 minutes before the show starts. You know what I mean? Like,
Unprepared.
unprepared, totally. And you're a judge.
But you know, but look, when I was on the bench, I was unprepared a lot of times.
Don't say that.
No, but I'm kind of annoyed about one judge right now because I thought she was lazy. So you say to yourself, what am I going to get if I'm going to go to trial with somebody? What kind of judge am I going to get? They're overwhelmed. A lot of them work very hard, long hours.
Yeah.
And when it comes down to it, one of the rules is you have to answer a motion, give a decision within 60 days or you don't get your paycheck. I didn't get a paycheck, so I didn't really care about it. but the rule is you have to do it within a certain period of time. And if you've got a backlog of files and your deadline is coming up, your paycheck versus getting it done, and there's 2 ways to do it. One is the easy way and one is the hard way. Which way is it usually going to go?
Oh, come on, we know. The easy way.
Absolutely no. This is an example of a judge had two opportunities. She had the chance to go through all these records, but there were a lot of them.
Yeah.
Or she could just adopt something somebody else did. That's a 2-minute decision, right?
Right.
What do you think she did?
Well, I mean,
2-minute decision.
yeah. She wants to get paid, just like everybody else.
Right decision, wrong decision.
Doesn't matter.
Happened to have been the wrong decision.
That's terrible.
But you didn't know that. You could have gotten somebody else who would have, like my friend, my very, very close friend, to whom I actually dedicated the book, you know, Judge Cato, who's said he'll do the show one day. It's his birthday today. I got to give him a call. And he will sit up all night to make sure he gets it right. And he wouldn't for a second diminish his function and his role by doing something because it's just easier and it's calls out laziness. He's not lazy.
Well, any great
Some of them
attorney
do.
or a judge will work their. I mean, that's why I saw my dad how hard he worked. I mean, he was gone at 7 in. He'd come home and go till 11, 12 o'clock at night. Just like you said, you used to go to 1, 2 o'clock
2
in the
o'clock in the
morning.
morning. I was talking on the
Yeah.
phone at 2 in the morning.
Yeah, I mean, so you guys work hard, man. I mean, you guys really, if you're a dedicated lawyer or a judge, you guys really, really work hard. I don't think the public really knows that. I really don't think they
No,
understand
because
it.
at the end of the day, there's something called the lawyer's curve or the lawyer's bell curve. You know, somebody comes into the office and everything is falling down around them and everything is just total chaos and whatever. You take the case, you start working on it, and you get together and ultimately you try the case and you win, right? Now the next conversation is, you know, that was such a great case. I think if you'd been better prepared, we could have gotten more.
Oh, God. It's like playing golf.
Oh, it gets worse. At
I
the
could have
end,
shot better.
You know what happens at the end? At the end of the story?
What?
Lawyer gets sued for malpractice.
Yeah, you should never say that, right?
Well, it's a reality. I've been sued a couple times.
We want to talk about it?
Fortunately, there was never any merit to any of it.
Was it on the People's Court?
No, it's because people didn't want to pay their bills.
Oh,
And so if you pushed them hard enough, they sued you for malpractice, figuring you'd walk away. They'll walk away. We'll talk after the break.
all right.
NBC Talk Radio, 1050 AM, KCAA.
In his book, From the Trench to the Bench, Judge Herb Dodell demystifies the legal system, including both civil and criminal, the lawyers, the judges, and the process. As a judge, former deputy district attorney, and criminal defense attorney, he knows the legal system. He has the inside information that you need to pick a lawyer, and he's here to give it to you. No matter what you're facing that makes you think you may need a lawyer, Judge Herb will shed valuable light on your situation and reveal your best options and many secrets of how the judicial system actually works. To find out more about how the legal system really works, you can get your copy of Judge Herb Dodell's eye-opening book, From the Trench to the Bench, at Amazon.com.
Okay, the relationship between a lawyer and a client is a very special one. It should be a very special one. I'm not talking about the big corporations, and you're talking about drafting agreements and things like that. I'm talking about the one-on-one relationship that you have, a personal case, not necessarily a personal injury, but a personal thing that's happened to you, like these fire cases. I spoke to 3 people today who are not getting paid by their insurance company.
Really?
3 people.
Wow.
3 separate people.
Are you going to take their case?
I'm going to interview them. I don't take anything without. First of all, I don't take anything that I don't want.
Are they people that you know?
No.
Okay.
One was referred by a lawyer, another lawyer. One was referred by my dentist. Not my dentist. He's a former client who was a dentist. He referred in another one, and the third came from the guy that came to clean our carpets. Because we had fire damage.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they're doing all kinds of stuff to the house now. They're taking out all the insulation. We lost some of our solar and stuff like that.
Wow. Well, you're lucky you
So,
didn't lose your house, I'll tell you.
I look 50 feet away.
Yeah.
50 feet.
Yeah, I know.
So you say to yourself, it gets us full circle. Why? Why are we here to begin with? I always ask that question.
I ask that question all the time.
But
Why the hell am I here?
I believe that anybody who embarks on a path of spirituality, and spirituality really can be summarized as it was summarized in the Bible. Do unto others that you'd want them to do to you, or vice versa. Don't do to others what you wouldn't want them to do to you. That's what it's really all about. That's why it's called the Golden Rule. Isn't it the Golden Rule?
Sure. Yeah, it is.
So the bottom line is that if you're talking about relationships between a lawyer and a client, they're very personal. First of all, that's why there's a privilege.
Yeah.
You get a chance to say whatever you want to say within limitations.
Well, I know with my attorneys, or even dealing with my dad or my attorney now, it's a very personal relationship.
It's personal until the outcome, if it's not favorable to the client, then the lawyer is to blame. And that's another element of reactive conduct. Blame is a reaction.
Yeah, but you know what? You shouldn't. If you weren't in, basically, the lawyer's trying to get that person out of the jam, but the person put themselves in that jam. So I don't really believe anybody can blame their lawyer for their whatever, being guilty or being found guilty or being sued or whatever it is, because you put yourself in that position to be there.
Well, you get a chance to pick your own lawyer.
True.
And, I have a chapter in the book on that. How to pick a lawyer. Most people don't know how to pick a lawyer. They don't know what questions to ask. They don't know what lawyers are supposed to do, what their rights are vis-a-vis the relationship. When that relationship breaks down and the privilege goes away, because if there's a lawsuit, there's no longer any privilege, you see people who used to get along with each other bitterly opposed to each other. And some people will do and say whatever it is because they won't take responsibility for the fact that maybe they caused the problem to begin with. It's easy to blame somebody else than to take responsibility for whatever the outcome may be.
Amen.
And it's not necessarily true. Not every lawyer is honest. Not every lawyer cares about the clients. Many lawyers' motivation is only about the money. I've talked about that for years. And some lawyers are in it for the right reason, and bless them. They work really hard. They work for public interests groups. They work for people who are downtrodden. They're out there doing it for the right reason, not for the big buck. And then you get the other people at the top of the chain who are doing it only for the money. There's no sense of spirituality or service at all.
So how do you, for somebody who needs a lawyer out there, how do you pick a good lawyer then, if you don't know one?
Well, the first thing you should do is, we're kind of getting off the subject here.
I know, but I'm just saying,
Well, the first thing you should do, because the show is designed to do four things. I got a chance to say that again for the 20th time, probably. One, we provide information. Information is how things work. For those people who are students or care or just interested, information. It's very helpful sometimes when you have information. Number two, we use illustrations. Why do we use illustrations? Like in the book, I have lots of illustrations, which are cases.
Right.
They're just cases. Why? Because if it happened to somebody else, it could happen to you. So if you think it's so remote that it's never going to happen, guess what?
It will.
It can, and it does.
Yeah.
But it all depends on what we call consciousness, how you really feel. There are people who win and there are people who lose. I've used this example before. You know Krzyzewski, the coach at Duke, basketball coach?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Wins every year.
Yes, he does.
I don't think he's had a couple of years. He's had build-up years. But for the most part, wins all the time.
They're going to probably win it this year.
And then you get people on the other end who can't seem to hit that 3-foot putt. Since you're such a golfer, the bottom line, why is that? Because they're not winners. Their consciousness is such that they don't see themselves winning. You will win. When we talked about the movie that you have in your life, the movie that you want to have happen at the end of the day, you are the creator. You're the producer. You're the director. You make it happen by what you do. And so one of the spiritual tools we talked about goes back to the concept, we've mentioned this many times, cause and effect. Spirituality is cause. How you think ultimately will determine what ultimately manifests physically down the road. Time separates cause from effect. So you don't necessarily correlate what happened to you to something you did yourself. I mentioned it last week or the week before. You look at people like Cosby. Cosby was once one of the richest men in the world. Did you know that?
Well, yeah.
One of the richest men in the world.
He had the biggest hit TV show in the 80s.
Well, the syndication money was
But I'm
beyond.
saying he was like this god. I mean, he was like this god-like figure in TV and in the industry, in Hollywood.
Yeah, I told you I met him a couple times. And take people like Harvey Weinstein or Les Moonves or all these people who did whatever they did, and I'm not judging them because I don't judge anybody other than in the court context. You look at what's going on in their lives right now. Why is it happening to them now? Yes, it's an 81-year-old blind man sitting in a jail someplace in Pennsylvania. Why? Why? Because of all the things that went on for the 60 or 70 years before that. You end up getting what you earn. In fact, there's a concept in the spiritual world that if you get something that you didn't earn, you don't get to keep it. You get to keep it for the moment.
Right.
You may get that rush. You may get that gratification for the moment, but guess what? You don't get to keep it. And it may be a month, it could be a year, it could be 5 years, it could be 10 years. And you think time has gone by, right? You think, well, I got away with it.
Well,
got away with it. Nothing ever happened to me.
Look what happened to all these guys that did this for years and years and years.
But that's a rule of the universe. That's not a legal principle. It's a spiritual principle.
Right.
But it certainly applies to the law because when you get sued, I've had people come in who've just gotten sued or have to sue somebody. The first question really is, why? What caused this event to take place? Maybe you did something down the road and this is coming back to get you. How do you fix it? One of the biggest problems with litigation for the lay people, and maybe for the lawyers too, is the uncertainty of it. Just telling that story about the judge who was lazy and did wrong by not spending the time to do what could have been right. That's what goes on out there. You don't know who you're going to get. When I always tell people when they come in, who's your judge? Oh, we don't know. We haven't got. Oh, who's going to be on your jury? Oh, I don't know. So they could be good for you or not good for you. Yeah, I guess. Well, you don't know. What's that bring up? Uncertainty.
Yeah.
And by knowing a little bit about what's likely to happen, never going to happen 100% of the time, what's likely going to happen based on experiences of others, as well as the knowledge of the lawyer that you're talking to, there's some degree of predictability. Not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but you have some sense of what you're facing, what you're looking at. You know, somebody who's gotten arrested is saying, well, where is this going to go? I don't know where it's going to go, but if you can do something about it and change the outcome, would you like to do that? Of course. So what you're looking for in a lawyer when you first start, number one, is reputation. Who recommended that person and how credible are they? That's the first. Others may be reported, writers, authors, specialists in particular fields that you need for you at that moment. And then you got the bus stop. You know,
the yellow pages.
Sitting on the bench waiting for the bus, and right behind you is the sign, "The best realtor in America." You know, whatever.
I love those.
They're the guy with the big billboard. That's the one I like.
Right.
Trust Sam. Why? Sam got my cousin Harry $2 million.
Right.
Really?
Yeah, sure.
So, you know, I'm not faulting the people who are advertising. If you go back, maybe it's probably 20, 25 years ago, there was a case involved a law firm called Jacoby and Myers.
Oh, we know them.
They advertise everywhere.
Please.
You know? I don't know those guys, but they started to advertise.
Right.
And the bar came after them.
Oh, they did?
Oh, they were charged with they were charged, I think, with criminal conduct.
Really? Jacoby and Myers?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
You weren't allowed to advertise.
Yeah.
There was a prohibition against advertising.
I didn't know that.
And Jacoby and Myers took the case up, I guess through the appellate courts, and they concluded that it was a violation of their First Amendment right to speak and to promote, and so advertising became everything. In fact, if you look on TV at night, late shows, I try to read the little print. I'm one of those people. I want to read the little print. I actually walk up to the TV, see if I can squint a little bit, and see if I can read what it says. It is, on the bottom, it says lawyer advertisement. You know, and they say we're practicing in all 52 states. So they got a place probably over the garage in Denver or whatever.
San Juan.
But the bottom line is, I'm not so sure that's the place to go. I'm not saying they're not good lawyers. Some of them are probably very good lawyers. And some of them have real specialties. Like you see this thing, mesothelioma.
Yeah.
Book. They're selling you the book.
Yeah,
they're not selling you the book.
a million times.
They're not giving you the book.
Right.
They want you to call them to get the book, right?
Right.
You know what those cases are also known as? Asbestos cases.
Right.
There's several $1 billion that have been put aside, you know, for victims of asbestos. Because they develop mesothelioma, whatever they call it.
I don't know.
It's lung cancer.
Yeah.
And the lawyers dream of these because they've been pretty much adjudicated as to the liability. Everybody knows Johns Manville was putting in this asbestos, or you've been in the Navy or whatever. They make a killing. No pun intended.
But people just calling them up and then they
look refer it out. They refer it out. I know this to be true.
Wow.
They don't know where the courtroom is. There's a guy, and we're not going to mention his name. You once mentioned it in one of the prior shows. So don't say it again. The guy advertises. His first name is Larry.
Oh, please.
I'm not going to go any further.
Everybody knows what that is.
I don't know if Larry's been in the courtroom ever. I really don't know. And I'm not saying that disparagingly or pejoratively because I don't know. I'm just speculating.
Somebody had to sue him.
Somebody told me that what they do is they never take the cases. They either refer them out. I think he takes the cases. He has his own firm.
Yeah.
But many of them that advertise are advertising from a law office in Little Rock. And they're looking for, if they get a case in California, if somebody calls them, they got somebody on their list in California who's going to pay them a referral to get the case. So somebody's out there advertising. There are a couple of those firms have made $1 gazillion just getting the referral fee.
I got $10 million.
For cousin Harry. But we'll talk more about that, and we're going to wrap up spirituality for this section when we're done with the break.
All right. Like I said, get the judge's book, From the Trench to the Bench. From the Trench to the Bench, now available on Amazon.com.
NBC Talk Radio, 1050 AM, KCAA.
Did you ever meet a lawyer that was for the people? Someone who had the best interests of the people at heart? Herb Dodell has been a lawyer for more than 50 years and has been a Superior Court judge for 9 years. having presided over more than 9,000 cases. In this show, he will reveal the secrets of how things really work in the legal system, so you can maximize your position and benefit most when you're in trouble and need someone on your side to simplify the process for you. For more information, email the judge at askjudgeherb@gmail.com. That's askjudgeherb@gmail.com.
Okay, you want the number one tool? Number one tool, because we're dealing with the concept of cause and effect. Number one tool is to do the right thing.
I try.
when you look at the scientists' view of the world, everybody understands there are multiple dimensions in the world. This dimension is the physical dimension. It's the lowest of all the dimensions. This is where there's limitation. But in the dimension above, which the scientists have all discovered that there are 6 dimensions compressed into one, that's why you have 7 days in a week. 6 of those days plus the day that we're here is on Earth is the physical world. So if in that dimension, there's 2 kinds of energies. There's positive and negative energy. And when you collect the positive, just like I said a few minutes ago, right place, right time. If you connect to the negative energy, chaos. So how do you connect to both? Do what the Creator is. What's the Creator do? The Creator only gives. Creator is only capable of giving and sharing and loving. That's all the Creator does. So what you want to do is to be like the Creator. How do you be like the Creator? Do the things the Creator does, which is share. Simple.
We give.
If you take for yourself, self alone, you draw down the negative energy. And that negative energy is not what you want, and it sucks your energy as well.
It does.
So if you really want to change the outcome in your life, if you've been subjected to a litigation or a situation that's really unpleasant and uncomfortable, you want to change it? Change you. Change your consciousness to take a look at every opportunity. Look, for lawyers, I call it the extra quarter of an hour. That's my analogy to it. There are lawyers who will charge you an extra quarter of an hour here, an extra quarter of an hour there, maybe a half hour over here. Why? Because the customer, because I'm calling it a customer now, the customer doesn't know the difference, whether you spent a half hour or you spent 3/4 of an hour.
Right.
You know. You could do that every day, all day, and take that money in. What's going to happen to you at the end of the day?
No, you're usually going to get
Something's going to happen to you.
something bad's going to happen.
At some point in time.
Something negative's going to happen.
At some point in time.
Sure, if you're ripping people off, eventually you're going to get it back.
Look, the doctors who do unnecessary surgeries and unnecessary procedures, no different. No different.
Oh, let's not go there.
Or we went to a dentist one time, a couple of years ago, who said, "Oh, you have to have this. This has to be done.
Oh, yeah.
It has to be done, and it's multiple appearances and whatever."
Yeah.
Then I went somewhere else. Not necessary.
Right?
Not necessary. People will look to do that.
Yep.
Did you win something? Yeah, you won the physical part. You won the instant gratification part. But the price you're going to pay for that, at the end of the day, is not worth it. It's like I was listening to Roger Stone today.
Your boy, Roger Stone.
Roger's going to come on the show again.
I hope.
No, Roger's... I tell people, Roger's a very interesting character.
He is.
He's beyond interesting character. I don't agree with much of what he says, but we get along really well.
I think a lot of it has some base. I mean, especially how he feels about the government.
But what he said today is unacceptable.
Oh, what did he say? I didn't hear it. What did he say today?
They were talking about the recordings that were taken, in the White House, and somebody said, well, they should have burned them. He says, absolutely. No, that's not right. That's definitely not right.
We're talking about my tapes.
Well, and he should know because he was involved with Nixon in those tapes.
That's right.
But to Nixon's credit, he didn't destroy those tapes.
Because I was stupid.
But then again, you get candidates who destroy emails too. You can predict what was in those emails. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I take no
Talking about Hillary
sides.
Clinton?
I was very troubled by that.
Who wasn't?
Personally, I was very troubled by that because all those business deals that were going on, and there were many.
Yes.
Both sides. Roger's right about that. It's both sides.
Yeah, it is both sides.
And all those things are gone. Why are they gone? Because it's not Bob Hope singing your favorite Christmas hymns. It was stuff. And so I told the story before I found a document in a file. It was 3 o'clock in the morning in Philadelphia. I'll never forget it. And I looked at it, I said, my God, that's the key to the whole case. The classic smoking gun. Why? They gave it to me? Actually gave it to me. The guy was an honest, legitimate lawyer. There's no way he would have destroyed it. It was not him. His client ended up paying, and I've had just the opposite. I've known many cases over the years that I was trying cases, many instances where the defense lawyers would destroy documents. They didn't exist, but when they did, they changed dates on things. It was all about winning and keeping the client. Because as this one lawyer told me, and we were socially friendly. We really got along. And, he said to me if he loses a couple of cases for this big insurance company, he'd be a garage. He had 200 lawyers working for him. They were working on mainly that insurance company's cases. If he goes and loses them and they start paying money out, the guy down the street's going to come and say, that's not going to happen on our watch.
Right.
And that's what goes on in the real world. Truly goes on in the real world. People don't know that. They think everything is legitimate. Ain't so. It is absolutely not so. So you want a lawyer that is passionate about your case, who believes in you and believes in what your case represents. You got to tell him the truth and watch the body language.
And how do you know if he's spiritually...
Well, you ask questions. You're talking to
Fine.
somebody. An interview doesn't have to be just getting facts. Where you from?
So you
what
can
do
actually,
do?
so you say you recommend like interviewing the lawyer on top of him interviewing
Absolutely.
you.
Both.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a good idea.
You're absolutely. And ask the lawyer. So we're going to need a forensic accountant here in a hypothetical case. And that means a lot of money. Forensic accountants are very expensive, like doctors.
Right.
Very expensive. And you say to them, are you prepared to, finance hiring a forensic accountant? They say, well, watch the body language, because they're now committing to spending $25,000, $30,000, $50,000. Whose money? Their money.
Right.
It's their, and if they don't think they're going to get it back, they ain't taking your case. The problem is with the contingency cases, as I mentioned before, even though we've gotten far afield from the discussion here, the reality is a lot of contingency lawyers will settle cases cheaper because it's faster and they don't have to spend any more money.
Right.
They'll take less money.
To settle.
You only have one case. This is your life. They got many. So if they take a heat a little bit, so what? It's less of a profit per case. But they will settle those cases cheaper, and they will absolutely tell you, look, Mary, we've got some problems with the case. This is as it goes, and you don't know anything. You're just a person with the case.
Or maybe you just want to settle. Like I had a discrimination case against a golf course in La Quinta where I worked, and it went on for like a year. And the first lawyer I got started questioning me about my background, stuff like that, which I really didn't dig because I was basically, some guy bleached Jewish stars into the cart room. I was the only Jewish person, half Jew there, and the general manager didn't do anything about it. And I sued him for, and then they fired me like 2 weeks later. And so I sued him, and my lawyer recommended another lawyer, but they ended up starting questioning me about it.
But that they should, they should do that. I was talking to somebody.
It was sort of, but they were talking about my Howard Stern background, some of the questions I asked and stuff like that. When I'm like, hey man, my background, these guys are being discriminatory.
No, but
prejudiced.
that may be realistic.
Well, hold on. Let me just tell you what happened. So they dropped the case, and then somebody else picked it up. And what you're talking about, I didn't go to court. They settled 50-50. They took 50, I got 50, and it was done. It was boom.
A little high on 50%. But,
Well, listen, I just wanted to settle it.
No, but the fact of the matter is,
I just wanted it over with.
the fact of, and you know what? They factor that in. They know that at the insurance company. I've told the story about going back to the Midwest and finding out the statistics of this big insurance company and how many they settle and why not.
Yeah.
And how many they pay and why they don't pay, all the rest of it. It's all statistical. They know exactly that people are either going to get sick, they're going to die, they're going to lose their lawyer, they're not going to be able to find a lawyer. They have calculated out of the percentage of cases that are submitted, they're going to deny them and they're going to get away with it.
Yeah.
And they hire some pretty good lawyers. Some of the defense lawyers that I've known have been excellent lawyers, really high quality lawyers. Some of them are honest and some of them are not.
I was just happy to get anything out of the whole thing because I figured the case was dead, and then somebody else decided to pick it up.
Perfect example. You walk in and you had low expectations.
Yeah.
But the lawyers oftentimes think more of themselves than they think about the clients. And I think that's wrong because that's not what we're supposed to do. It's like the lawyer's Hippocratic oath, do no damage to somebody. That doesn't necessarily work.
Yeah, they made me feel like I was the bad guy. I'm like, what?
But can you do something about it? Yeah, make better choices.
Yeah.
Make better choices.
I don't know.
It's the difference between being reactive and being proactive.
Well, I was proactive.
Go find the right person and whatever, and you'll see the big difference.
I was relying on my attorney to tell me.
But you can determine the outcome. You can determine the outcome of your case. You may not know it, but you will.
Where's my dad when I need him? That's what I was thinking at the time.
Look, the criminal law is a little bit different.
He would have kicked their butt all over the place.
But the criminal law is a lot different.
I know it is.
Because I would say over the many, many, many cases that I defended, 95% were guilty.
Yeah.
People were guilty.
Yeah.
And then it becomes really a negotiation for time. That's what criminal cases are about. They offer you 2 years, you want 6 months. They want to put you in the joint, and you want to wear.
I get it. The plea bargain.
You want a bracelet. Yeah,
I hear you.
That's what criminal law is generally all about.
I hear you.
Not a lot of them are not guilty. Believe it or not.
Well,
that's not to say that people aren't charged with crimes that they didn't commit. It happens all the time.
Yeah, it does.
People have been executed for crimes they didn't commit.
They're in jail for years.
Some guy just got released after 51 years.
That's what I'm saying.
So there's no guarantee.
Now, what did that guy do spiritually to be in jail for 51? That's what I'm talking about.
It gets into another concept, which is called reincarnation. You maybe you're not here for the first time.
I can't wait to go back.
Well, but I will tell you a great movie. I'm going to recommend a great movie.
All right, do it.
Defending Your Life.
Defending Your Life.
With Meryl Streep and Albert Brooks.
I've seen it.
Great movie. It tells you really the way it works spiritually. You get another shot, or maybe you can just keep on going. You go to that place where you can hang out on the clouds.
No, I have to keep going.
You got the golf course in the sky.
I can't wait to
where
go.
You can't miss that 3-foot putt. I mean, everything works for you.
I'll finally get a hole in one.
You know what? And you will.
I know I will.
Why do people get holes in one?
I don't know.
They take a swing. The ball goes in the hole, the ball doesn't go in the hole. Why does it go in the hole?
Cause and effect.
Cause and effect. You had a dream that night, and you did a good deed, and so you got the hole in one.
You're the best, Judge. You're fantastic.
Have a good time. This is a great show. I enjoy doing this.
All right. Well, listen.
It's fun.
You got to get Judge's book, From the Trench to the Bench, available on Amazon.com. And you want to ask the judge a question? Yes. You can ask him a question. Just email him, askjudgeherb@gmail.com. Judge, great show.
And I do answer.
You do answer?
Not every time, but almost every time.
And you're a very spiritual soul.
Thank you, and we'll see you next week. Can we get another porn star?
Yeah, I can get you one. For Oscar night? Okay.